All right, so have you ever felt like you're just spinning your wheels at work? Like you're putting in a ton of effort, but not really seeing the results that you want?
Ugh, it's the worst.
Yeah. So today we are diving into the 80/20 Manager by Richard Koch
Ooh.
to see if we can kind of crack the code to working smarter, not harder. You ready for this?
I am so ready.
Let's do it.
Okay, perfect. So this book is all about the Pareto Principle, which is the idea that roughly 80% of our outcomes come from just 20% of our efforts.
Yeah. It's wild when you think about it.
It really is. So how do we even figure out what that crucial 20% looks like for each of us?
Well, Koch suggests a few different approaches, and one that I found particularly helpful is the impact effort matrix. Have you ever heard of this?
I think I have, but remind me.
Okay, so it's basically a visual tool where you plot tasks based on their potential impact and then the effort required.
Gotcha.
And it helps you prioritize those high-impact, low-effort activities.
Ooh, the sweet spot.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. The
Yeah.
sweet spot for maximizing your output. I love that. So instead of just like blindly tackling your to-do list,
Hmm.
you're strategically plotting each item to see where you get the biggest bang for your buck.
Precisely. That's the idea.
I like it. Can you give us an example of how this matrix might play out in a real-world scenario?
Okay, sure. So let's say you're a marketing manager.
Okay.
You've got a million things on your plate, right?
Always.
Social media updates, blog posts, email campaigns, client meetings. The list goes on and on.
Yeah, for sure.
So by using the impact effort matrix, you might realize that creating in-depth evergreen blog content requires a significant amount of effort up front.
Mm-hmm.
But it also has the potential to drive a lot of traffic and leads over time.
Ah, so instead of just like getting caught up in those quick social media posts that might have limited reach, you're strategically choosing to invest in content that has a longer shelf life.
Yes, exactly. And potentially a much bigger payoff.
Makes sense. So thinking about my own work, I'm starting to realize that I might be spending way too much time on tasks that just drain me
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
and not enough time on the things that really energize me and make a difference. What advice would you give our listener on how to spot those energy zappers and shift their focus?
Well, the first step is awareness. Just start paying attention to how you feel throughout the day.
Okay.
Are there certain tasks that consistently leave you feeling depleted?
Yeah.
Or maybe you find yourself procrastinating on certain projects?
Oof, yes, all the time.
Those might be signs that you're not operating in your zone of genius.
That's like they're screaming, delegate me,
Mm,
but we're not listening.
exactly.
So how do we start shifting gears and leaning more into our strengths?
Well, Kolf talks a lot about the power of delegation. And not just in the sense of handing off tasks you dislike,
Right.
but also recognizing that other people might be better suited for certain tasks, even if you're capable of doing them yourself.
He gives that great example in the book about the person who's fantastic at building relationships, but really struggles with data analysis.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. And instead of forcing themselves to crunch numbers, they delegate that task to someone who thrives on it.
It's a win-win.
Absolutely. So it frees up that relationship builder to focus on what they do best, ultimately leading to a more productive and harmonious work environment.
It's all about playing to everyone's strengths.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
So we figured out our high impact tasks and we're delegating like pros. What's next?
All right, so Koch is a big advocate for what he calls leveraging your team.
Okay.
And this is about identifying those high-performing individuals who are truly driving results
Gotcha.
and then giving them the support they need to thrive.
I love that. It's like you said, find those hidden gems on your team and then polish them until they sparkle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that support can take many forms. It could be providing them with more challenging projects, offering professional development opportunities,
Oh,
or
fun.
simply giving them more autonomy and decision-making power.
So how do we spot these hidden gems? What are some signs that someone on our team might be ready for more responsibility and could really shine if given the chance?
Keep an eye out for those who are consistently going above and beyond,
Mm,
who are proactive in solving problems, and who are eager to learn and grow.
I like it. So they might not be the loudest voices in the room,
Right.
but their work speaks volumes.
Exactly.
All right, listener, I want you to think about your own team. Who are your quiet achievers? Who are those individuals who are consistently delivering exceptional work and might be ready to take on even bigger challenges? It's time to empower them. So we've got this awesome team. We know what to focus on, but sometimes it feels like there's just not enough time in the day to get it all done. What does Cork say about that?
Well, you know what? He's got a whole chapter on simplifying your work.
Really?
Yeah, and it's something that really resonated with me because I think so often we just kind of get bogged down in all these unnecessary steps and processes. and we don't even realize
Oh,
it.
totally. It's like we just inherit these systems, and we assume they're the best way to do things, but maybe they're not.
Exactly. And Koch actually gives this great example of a small business owner who is spending hours each week creating these detailed weekly reports for clients.
Okay.
And by just switching to a simplified monthly report, they were able to free up so much time
Wow.
without sacrificing any value for the client.
I love that. That's what's so great about this book. It's not about working harder or longer hours.
Right.
It's about working smarter. Finding those little hacks that just streamline your workload and make your life easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some other ways we can apply this principle of simplification?
I think it might involve automating certain tasks, using technology to your advantage,
Okay.
or just having honest conversations with your team about, how to better distribute responsibilities.
That reminds me of something else that Koch talks about, being an opportunist.
Oh, yeah.
It's about staying flexible and seizing those unexpected opportunities that come your way.
Huh.
What was that anecdote he shared about Airbnb?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
The story about how the founders, they didn't initially set out to create a vacation rental platform.
Right.
They just noticed that people were struggling to find accommodation during a busy conference, and they decided to capitalize on that need.
Wow.
So it was a brilliant example of recognizing an opportunity and adapting quickly.
That's such a good reminder that sometimes the best ideas come from just paying attention to what's happening around us
Yeah,
and being open to new possibilities.
exactly. Embracing that entrepreneurial spirit.
But of course, it's not just about chasing every shiny object that comes along.
No.
Koch also emphasizes the importance of thinking long-term,
Right.
which can be tough in today's fast-paced world.
Mm-hmm.
But Koch argues that we need to be intentional about focusing on projects with lasting value, not just quick wins. He uses the example of a marketing manager who chooses to create an evergreen blog series
Yeah.
instead of running those short-term ad campaigns. And it's a decision that pays off in the long run because that content continues to attract traffic and generate leads long after the initial effort.
Absolutely. Building something sustainable.
Yeah, I often struggle with this whole balancing the short-term demands with my long-term goals. Any advice for our listener on how to find that sweet spot?
One thing that I've found helpful is to schedule dedicated time each week or each month to work on those strategic initiatives.
Okay,
The projects that are really aligned with your long-term vision.
gotcha.
And treat it like any other important meeting. Block out the time on your calendar. Protect it fiercely.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Give those long-term goals the VIP treatment they deserve.
Exactly.
So we're focusing on the right tasks, simplifying our work, and thinking long-term. Anything else we need to know to become true 80-20 managers?
Okay, one of my favorite concepts from the book is what Koch calls creative laziness.
Creative laziness.
I know it sounds a little counterintuitive, but before you think this is about slacking off, let me explain.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued. Creative laziness sounds like my kind of productivity hack.
It's all about finding those smarter, more efficient ways to work.
Okay.
Leveraging systems, tools, and strategies to really maximize your output with minimal effort.
So it's not about being lazy.
Right.
It's about being strategically lazy.
Exactly.
I can get on board with that.
He shares this example of a manager who wanted to improve team productivity, but without resorting to micromanagement.
Okay.
So they decided to implement these weekly one-on-one meetings where employees could bring up challenges and propose solutions.
Interesting.
And this simple change really streamlined communication and problem solving. It freed up the manager's time and empowered the team.
That's what I call working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. Putting in the effort up front to create systems that make your life easier in the long run.
What are some other concrete tools or tactics that Koch recommends for, streamlining our work and embracing that creative laziness?
Well, he's a big fan of automation.
Okay.
Anything that you can do to take those repetitive tasks off your plate.
Right.
So think about email filters, scheduling tools, project management software, anything that can help you streamline your workflow and reduce that mental clutter.
Yeah, because when you free up your mental energy, you have more bandwidth for those high-impact activities that really move the needle.
Precisely.
And I think that brings us back to this key theme of focus.
Absolutely.
In today's world, we're just bombarded with distractions. Emails, notifications, social media. It's a never-ending battle for our attention.
It's true. And we're almost programmed to multitask.
Right.
But the reality is that our brains just aren't wired that way.
Yeah, when we try to do too many things at once, we end up doing none of them well.
Exactly. And Koch actually talks about the importance of creating these blocks of uninterrupted time
Okay.
for focused work. So it might mean turning off notifications, closing unnecessary tabs,
Oh, yeah.
or even just finding a quiet space where you can truly concentrate.
I recently started using a website blocker to keep myself off social media during my peak work hours.
Oh, nice.
And honestly, it's been a game changer. I get so much more done when I'm not constantly being pulled in a million different directions.
Yeah, it makes such a difference. And here's another bonus tip.
Ooh. I love bonus tips.
Once you've identified those high-impact tasks
Right.
that really deserve your undivided attention, schedule them into your calendar, like you would any other important appointment.
It's like giving those tasks their own little spotlight,
Yeah.
right? Like, you are the star of the show right now.
Yeah, nothing gets in the way.
No.
So, thinking about all this, what are some of those sneaky distractions that maybe our listener is facing in their own work environment?
That's a good question.
And what are some ways that they can combat them?
Well, I think it really depends on the person and their own work style.
Yeah, of course.
But I know I definitely struggle with digital distractions.
Oh, yeah.
The constant emails and notifications and social media and the news.
It never ends.
It really doesn't. It's about creating those focus zones where those things are minimized.
And setting boundaries.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just technology. Sometimes it's chatty coworkers
I know.
or a messy workspace.
Yeah.
Even just the general business of the office environment.
I find that even just putting on noise-canceling headphones can sometimes make a world of difference.
Me too. So as we kind of start to wrap up this deep dive into the 80/20 manager, I want to leave our listener with a final thought-provoking question.
Ooh, I like it. Let's hear it.
Okay, so throughout this book, Cook talks about how important it is to identify those vital few, those key inputs that drive the majority of our results. But he also encourages us to consider the impact of our actions over time. So my question is, how can thinking about your future self help you make better decisions today?
Oh, that's a really interesting question.
Right. So imagine you could fast forward 5, 10, even 20 years. What would your future self thank you for doing today? Would it be grinding away at those low-impact tasks? Or would it be investing your time in those high-impact activities that really align with your long-term goals?
It's all about perspective.
It is. It's about making choices that our future selves will be proud of. So we've covered so much in this deep dive. What are some key takeaways that you want to leave our listener with today?
Well, I think the biggest one is to remember that it's not about doing more. It's about doing the right things.
Working smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to embrace that creative laziness.
Ooh, yes. Find those little hacks and shortcuts.
Streamline your work. Automate tasks. Free up your mental energy for the things that really matter.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
So true. Keep experimenting, keep learning, and keep striving to work smarter, not harder.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the 80/20 manager. We hope you learned something new today, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.